we will then get everybody organized about 8 a.m. in the morning. We rig the first bent, hook it up to the crane. The fellows will then each position themselves at the base of a post. And as we then signal the crane to start lifting the structure, the crane tries to maintain the balance of the structure as he swings his boom and cables up. Once we get that actually physically lifted off the ground, we'll swing it over its position on the deck, and we pre-cut the plywood subfloor out to match the exact post position that we want. The blocking is underneath that to carry the loads down through to the foundation and footings, but by cutting the plywood out, we've actually created a way of locking the frame into its position. Can't move, materials can't twist over time. So we'll set that down, bump things around so they actually slip into those pockets, and then we have to plumb and brace that first bent. Everything in this sequence of raising is now based off the first bent being true and plumb. We're going to connect from there. We're not going to check anything else to plumb through the rest of the structure until the following day when we true it up. And then we can then proceed to pick the next part of the puzzle, which would be a connecting girt. We'll go to the bunk pile, pull that part, fly it up into position, slide it into the mortise. There may or may not be a knee brace depending on the particular joint. We'll make sure that everything closes up, and if it does, then we can proceed to draw bore. If we need to adjust the frame with the chisels or whatever, we can do that at that time. As we work through, then we can then stand the next bent up, slide it into position, drop it into the pockets, connect it to the connecting girts, and now we'll use come-alongs to actually pull that frame tight. We won't worry about it being plumb because we know we've already plumbed the first bent. Everything's going to work backwards from that. We'll carry on that sequence throughout the course of the morning, put the next connectors in for the next base, stand the next bent. Once we get most of that work done through the center core, we'll come back and start dropping in connecting roof members. We'll start with ridges, we'll put in valley rafters, and the valley rafters tend to be a little trickier because now we're working in three-dimensional geometry. Get them to slide into position, make sure everything there fits correctly. And this is where it's now critical that any elevational differences within the foundation or the subfloor will have huge impacts now 20 feet in the air as to whether the frame is now level, whether it stays square. The valley rafters, more often than not, if they don't fit, really isn't a function of the frame not fitting. It's a function of the frame being out of square or out of elevational differences, not correct in that manner. So we'll have to use the valley rafters to actually force the frame back to where it needs to be. Put the common rafters in or common purlins in, work through that, and by the end of day one, we'll normally have at that point the center core of the structure up and done, and typically the connecting bents on the outside wings will be done. We'll brace them off at the end of the day, come back day two, carry on where we left off, and wrap up the raising on a normal home. So 2 days of flying, have it all finished up.